Welcome, rational thinkers and champions of evidence-based reasoning, to the Free of Faith podcast. This is the place where we dare to peel back the comforting but opaque layers of faith-based claims and expose their logical shortcomings. Today, we're tackling a question that strikes at the heart of belief systems everywhere. Do we dare assess the character and actions of a proposed God before accepting the existence of that God? Faith often tells us that questioning the divine is dangerous, maybe even sinful. But here at Free of Faith, we say questioning is not only important, it's the only way forward. Let's start with something relatable. Imagine someone tells you about a friend, Jamie. Jamie is incredible, they say. They're generous, kind, and always fair. You're intrigued, but naturally skeptical. Instead of immediately embracing this glowing description, you would first observe Jamie's actions. Does Jamie demonstrate generosity in practice? Are they fair in their dealings with others? You would rationally reserve judgment until you had evidence. So why should it be any different when the claim is about a deity? The stakes, of course, are far higher when it comes to God. The characteristics attributed to most gods, omniscience, omnipotence, moral perfection, come with profound implications. These attributes are not mere niceties. They underpin doctrines that shape the lives of billions. To accept such claims without evidence or scrutiny is to surrender our most valuable tool for understanding reality, our reason. The article we're discussing today digs into this tension between faith and rational inquiry. It poses a critical challenge. If the proposed character of a deity doesn't align with our understanding of justice, compassion, and logic, should we trust that deity or even believe in its existence at all? For instance, many religious texts describe actions by their gods that, if performed by humans, would be labeled cruel or unjust. Why does the divine get a pass? Consider this. In many traditions, God is portrayed as infallible, yet also wrathful, jealous, and punitive. How do we reconcile these contradictions? Would we call a human being respectable if they punished children for the mistakes of their ancestors? Would we honor a leader who demanded absolute loyalty under threat of eternal suffering? These are not hypothetical questions. They reflect claims made in sacred texts. And if these actions strike us as unjust or incoherent, why should we set aside our skepticism just because the subject is divine? Let's look at another angle. Imagine you're invited to join a new social movement. The leader is described as benevolent, wise, and omnipotent. However, when you ask about the leader's actual decisions, you're told, well, those are mysterious. You wouldn't understand. Would you feel comfortable entrusting your life to this leader? Probably not. And yet, this is the framework that faith often asks us to accept without question. Faith thrives on the suspension of critical thinking. It asks us to silence our doubts and trust blindly, often framing such trust as virtuous. But is it truly virtuous to ignore contradictions and inconsistencies? Or is it merely convenient for those who benefit from the perpetuation of these beliefs? The article makes a compelling case that blind faith is not a virtue, it's a vulnerability. It leaves us open to manipulation and deters us from seeking answers that align with evidence and reason. What's fascinating is how often theologians attempt to justify divine contradictions by appealing to mystery. God's ways are higher than ours, they'll say. But doesn't this sidestep the issue? If justice, compassion, and logic are principles that we are encouraged to value, why would a divine being operate in ways that flagrantly violate those principles? It's as if we're being asked to accept that water can sometimes flow uphill because it's divine water. The problem isn't just the lack of evidence, it's the lack of coherence. Here's another thought experiment to bring this home. Imagine a trial where a judge allows the guilty to walk free, but punishes the innocent instead. The defense? The judge's wisdom is beyond our understanding. Would we accept this reasoning in a court of law? Absolutely not. Yet, this is the logic behind doctrines like substitutionary atonement, where an innocent Jesus is said to take on the guilt of humanity. Far from resolving the problem of sin, this idea sidesteps justice entirely. One of the article's most thought-provoking points is about the role of evidence in belief. Faith often demands acceptance first, evidence later, if ever. But this is entirely backward. Imagine if scientists operated this way, making grand claims without testing them, insisting that questioning those claims was inappropriate. The scientific method demands the opposite. Claims must be tested and proven before they're accepted. Why should the standard be any lower for something as significant as the existence of a God? Let's take a moment to reflect on what this means for us as individuals. Assessing the character of a proposed deity is not an act of hubris, it's an act of responsibility. It means holding claims about God to the same standard we would hold any other significant claim. If a deity's actions and character can't withstand rational scrutiny, then belief in that deity is not an act of wisdom, it's an act of willful ignorance. This is not about dogmatically dismissing the possibility of various gods. It's about respecting reason. It's about valuing the tools that have allowed humanity to progress: critical thinking, evidence, and logic. These tools have given us medicine, technology, and an ever-expanding understanding of the universe. They are far too valuable to set aside in the face of untested claims, no matter how comforting those claims might be. If this conversation has sparked some questions, or even some discomfort, that's a good thing. Questioning is the first step toward clarity. Don't settle for easy answers or platitudes. Dive deeper, explore further, and demand evidence. Head over to Free of Faith to read the full article and join the discussion. Let's keep this conversation going, because the pursuit of truth doesn't stop at questioning. It's about finding answers that actually make sense. Thank you for tuning in to the Free of Faith podcast, where we expose the logical failings of faith and celebrate the clarity that comes with reason. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay curious, and remember, rationality always outperforms faith. Engage reality, and I'll see you soon.